Good morning. Time to do everybody's favorite thing, which is listen to Mrs. Rivera, right? And take some notes. So you get a double bonus today. Last week we took some notes about how to put images into a web page. So hopefully that's solid in your memories, the difference between JPEGs and PNG files and what GIF files do and how to put them into a web page. Today we're going to talk about the other part of our notes, which is links. This is the other thing that makes a web page interactive and easy to use. So we're going to start off today by talking about the different types of links that you can put into a web page, and I'm going to do the notes here and you need to do the notes as well. So you want to probably do a side-by-side window with the video and your notes. So there are three different types of links that you can put into a web page. First kind of link that you can do is an external. I'll be talking about each one of these more in depth, but I'm just going to list the three first. The second type of link that you can put into a web page is an internal link. And the third type of link is an in-page link. Okay, so an external link, what this one does is it will bring the user to a page on another web page, on another website. So if I put a link on our school website to google.com, that would be an external type of link. Think of it like making a long distance phone call that's not in your area code. That's what an external link does. And then the second type of link, the internal, what this does is it brings the user to a page, within the same website. So if you go to our school website and you click on announcements and you get to view the daily announcements, that's an internal link. It's not taking the user outside of the website, it's keeping them within the website. And then the third type of link, in page, what this one does is it just brings the user further down on the same page. And this one is one that we really only use for pages that have large amounts of content. The example that I always give when I talk about this with class is it's like a Wikipedia page. If I'm doing a paper on Abraham Lincoln and I go to Wikipedia, not that your teachers will let you use Wikipedia, right? But just go with me on this. There's always a table of contents and you can click to find the information you're looking for instead of having to scroll all the way through the page. So let's talk about how you actually create these. So we're going to start first talking about an external link. If I want to put this into a web page, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a tag. It's called the A tag. I can't talk today. It's called the A tag. A stands for anchor, but it always has an attribute with it that we're going to use. Just like when we did the image tag earlier in this section of notes, we didn't just do IMG by itself. We had to link to where the picture was with SRC. So in this case, what we're going to do with links is we're going to use the attribute href. href. href stands for hypertext reference. So we'll go href equals, and then in quotation marks, we're going to put the full URL that we're trying to link to. That goes inside the brackets. The next thing that we do is we type the text to appear as a link. And then we finish it up with a closing A tag. Remember, if you have a command with attributes, when you do your closing tag, you don't include those in that. Okay, now when I say full URL, what I mean by that is you must include http:// or https:// if it's a secure website. You have to include those in front of it. The way that I explain this is it would be, remember, you're making an external link. So I said it's like making a long distance phone call. If I have a friend that lives in California and I want to dial their number, I can't just dial the 7 digits of their local number, right? I have to put their area code too. And sometimes, depending on the phone system, sometimes you have to dial a 1 before you even put the area code. So that is exactly what we need to do with our links. We have to specify exactly from beginning to end where this link is going to take us. So I'm going to make one for you really quickly, and I'll pull up Notepad. Okay, so in the body of my document, I'm just going to create a link. I'm going to make it go to NBC's website. Okay, so you'll see I have my href tag right here, equals, and then in quotation marks, full URL, and then closing quotation mark in the bracket, and then the words or the letters NBC and a closing A tag. So when I load this page in my browser, I'm just going to see the word NBC, and it's going to look like a link, because what do links look like? They are almost always underlined. They are almost always blue, unless you change them. We're going to talk about that later. So I'm going to find that file that I just made, Monday Links, open it up, and there's my text right there. When I hover my cursor over it, you can see it changes from a regular pointer to a hand when I'm in Microsoft Edge. Notice also when you hover over a link, if you look down at the bottom of the screen near the status bar, you'll see where that link takes you. So if I click on it and wait for it, it should load NBC's website, and it did. So let me go back to the notes, and we'll talk about creating an internal link. So if I'm trying to link to somewhere within the same website, I don't have to include quite as much. So I do a space href, just like we do for an external link, equals, and I am still going to put where I'm going in quotation marks. But in this case, all I really need to do is put the file name .html wherever I'm trying to link to, and then however I want that text to appear, and then my closing A tag. So if I go with that same example of long distance phone calls, when you're trying to do an external link, an internal link is like making a local phone call. If I decide that I want to call the theater and see what movies are playing, I just pick up the phone and I dial 436-7890. I don't have to dial 1231 because I'm within the same area code. And that's what we're doing with an internal link. So now what I'm going to do is add an internal link to my page, and I'm just going to find some random file that I have. Okay, I have that one called TV. Don't quite remember what it is, but I'm going to add that link to it. So I'll throw in a p tag just to double space down to my new link, and I'm going to go href equals, and all I'm going to put is the name of the file that's located in the same place as tv.html, and then whatever text do I want to appear. So I'll just put Mrs. Rivera's TV file and a closing a tag. Alright, so now I'm going to go back to my browser, and I am going to refresh my page, and now you'll see the link. I've got NBC here. I have Mrs. Rivera's TV file right here. One thing to notice, Mrs. Rivera's TV file, that link looks a little bit different. Notice that it's purple. That's a default color that we're going to talk about in just a little bit here. So if I click on it, it loads one of my files that I had in the same location. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Okay. Now, let's talk about creating an in-page link. These ones are a little more complicated because it's a two-step process. First thing you have to do when you're creating an in-page link is you need to create a bookmark or an anchor where that link is going to take you to. So if I have a really long page with lots of paragraphs and I want to make a link that jumps down to a paragraph further down on the page, I need something that's going to tell the browser where that area is that I want to use. So what we do is we use a tag, but instead of href, because we're not making a link here, we do a name equals, and then in quotation marks, the name of the bookmark that you want to give. You can call it whatever you want it to. And this goes above the area to link to. And then you do a closing a tag after the area. So Mrs. Rivera wasn't really thinking ahead of time by getting a page with lots and lots of text on it. So I am just going to have to fake it here, and I'm going to do my usual blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to copy that into my document. Okay, so first of all, let me just reload the page. And there's all my text, blah, 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 but I think I need even more, so. Let me reload that. Okay, that's a little bit better. See all that text? All right, so let's say that I want a link at the top that's going to link me down to, say, this area, and I'm just going to make something up. So what I do is I have to tell the browser where this goes. So I'm just going to put one right here. Let's say this is my area. So I do a name equals, and then in quotation marks, the name of whatever bookmark I want to call it. So I'll just call it blah. If I'm doing, say, summaries of chapters in a book, and I want to link to different ones, maybe I'd call my first section chapter 1 and my second one chapter 2 and so on. So whatever you want to call it. And then you just do a closing a tag after that area. So I'll put my closing a tag right here. Okay, now if I reload my page, after doing that, you're not going to see anything that's different. That's just an invisible little mark. It's like taking a paperback novel and taking a corner of a paper and folding it over on the page so that you remember what page you were on next time you open that book. All right, so now what we have to do is make the link. So that's the second part. So we're going to use the href tag for that. And what we have to do is we have to put in a hashtag, the number sign, and then whatever the bookmark name was, whatever you named it in your A name tag, it's going to go into the quotation marks with a hashtag in front of it. And then whatever text you want to appear as the link, and then your closing A tag. So what I'm going to do is go back to my document, and I'm going to make a link. And instead of going to a website, I'm going to put hashtag blah, because that's where I want it to take me to. And then whatever I want my link to look like. So in this case, I have Mrs. Rivera's blah paragraph. So now if I go back and I reload my page, there it is, Mrs. Rivera's blah paragraph. Let me just throw in some break tags because I don't like the way that looks. One of the things you want to do that I'm doing right now is if you're doing in-page links, you usually want to use a bunch of break tags because that will help to separate your links from your text. Okay, now I could have gone even more, but I'm just going to go with this. If I want to click on this link, Mrs. Rivera's blah paragraph, notice how it jumps me down to that page. Oops. And that is how you do a bookmark link or an in-page link. It's not used as often, but you definitely see it on pages that have lots of content to them. So let's talk about how links look. One of the things about a link that makes it stand out from the rest of the text on a page is that it's underlined. Unfortunately, in HTML, you can't change that. It's just going to be underlined. When we move into CSS for designing web pages, you can change that. The other thing that links have in common is that the default color is blue. And then we have a couple of other things. We have what's called a visited link and what's called an active link. Visited link is one that you should recognize. It's when you see a link to a site that you've been to recently, and the default color of that is purple. Can't type here. Active link is something that maybe you don't even notice, but have you ever noticed on a website, you click on a link and while you're clicking, you have this little brief flash of color to it. That is what we call an active link. The default color of an active link is red. You can change these. But at this point, like I said, you can't get rid of the underline, but you can get rid of the colors. I mean, not get rid of, but you can change the colors. So all we're going to do, if we want to change the colors of links, we're going to add attributes to the body tag. You already know several of them because you can change your background color of a page and the text color of a page all in the body tag. Well, now you can add even more to it. So link equals, and then a color code in quotation marks with the hashtag, that'll change the color of your link. V-link equals, put in a color code, that will change the color of a visited link. And A-link equals, with a code in quotation marks, that will change the active color of your link when it's clicked on. So what I'm going to do, and just remember when I say attributes, that's just when you're adding extra commands to an HTML tag. After space, you put another attribute, and you can just keep going on and on and on. So I am going to go to my HTML file, and my body tag has nothing in it right now. So I'm going to put in body BG color equals, I'm going to set my background color to black, and I'm going to make my text white. And I'm going to make my link color red. And I'm going to make my visited link color green. Oops. And I am going to make my active link color yellow. And I'm going to save my file and I'm going to reload it in the browser. The one that you won't see is the actual link color of red, most likely. So let me go back up to the top of my, well, let me just reload right here. And go back up to the top. Oh, I was wrong. It did show these as a regular link. So we have the link to NBC as red because I made that the color of my link. Mrs. Rivera's TV file is green because that is a visited link that I've looked at previously. And Mrs. Rivera's blah paragraph also shows up as a red normal link. If I click on a link, do you notice that flash of yellow? That is the active link color. That happens as you're clicking on something. And that is how you change the appearance of your links. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take these notes and I want you to submit them to me on Google Classroom. And hopefully this makes sense to you. Let me know if you have any questions.